Hello and welcome to yet another exciting episode of Economic Forum. My name is Tawanda Gudlanga. We continue focusing on agriculture, which is a key sector in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe has been celebrated at one time as the food basket of Africa, and we've had success stories in the various subsectors of that component. And we continue focusing on the same narrative. Our guest once again is Mr. BASIL NYABADZA, who is the former chair of the Agricultural Rural Development Authority, ADA, as well as the former vice chair of the Agricultural Marketing Authority, AMA, and currently he is the chair of the Traditional Grains Producers Association. Sir, thank you so much for joining us again.
It's a pleasure.
Last week we did touch on the pillars of agriculture exhaustively, but we now want to just have an understanding of the segments of agriculture that are in Zimbabwe. I mean, if you were to ask me, I know that there's only maize to talk about in Zimbabwe.
Well, we have at least 8, and these are your plantations, your cereals, your horticulture, your wildlife, your livestock, your oilseeds, your tubers, and fisheries for our base for industry. All those crops which come under those segments can be stretched under 5 positions, as I said last week. Each and every one of them demands research, production techniques, processing techniques, marketing techniques, and consumption, meaning the byproducts which come out of that. So these are industries. And if you total them all, we have no less than 65 crops which can be grown successfully within our economy. And in fact, could be translated to become industry. Now, the ecological regions within Zimbabwe, we have 5 ecological regions, region 1 up to 5. And that means the emphasis of growing some of the crops differs from region to region. For example, your plantations, they are mostly found in regions 1 and 2. Then you've got your livestock, regions 3, 4, 5. You've got your horticulture, which is spread. You've got your cereals, equally spread, regions mostly 2, 3, and 4. So we have quite a lot of issues which are based in our respective districts. And I believe we should be focusing on district gross domestic product. In other words, let's ask and say, look, what is Nyanga good at? What are the best 5 crops which can be grown in Nyanga? Equally, what is Cholocho good at? What is Bikita good at? And when we identify the key crops which come from those districts, then we must now say, who are the leaders? Crop leadership comes into play. Who are the leaders in Bikita who grow groundnuts, who grow soybean, who grow maize? Then that leadership in Bikita must be identified through our agri-tax officials, nurtured, propelled. By so doing, we are now targeting the growth of Bikita gross domestic product. Equally, Muzarabani gross domestic product. Equally, Mat North, you can pick Nkai district and say, look, what grows in Nkai? Because each district has got a strength. So the leadership, for example, you can say Nkai could be wildlife or livestock. These are the issues. Once we do that, we are spreading the risk and encouraging participatory production of value in all our 63 rural districts.
You speak about 65 crops that we can grow in Zimbabwe. You spoke about 8 different types of sectors or segments of agriculture. But why is the emphasis on maize?
Maize was inherited. It's a food. Maize is now more than food. It's a political product. But this is a very interesting question you pose. Let's reflect. Maize production takes care of human consumption. Equally, the stock feed industry is founded on maize. It shouldn't be like that. Today, as we are today, food insecure 2020, we are importing maize. That maize is going to be it's grade 1 or grade 2 coming from Mexico or elsewhere, or South Africa, or Tanzania, or Zambia. It's grade 1 or 2. And that maize is going to feed humans, livestock, piggery, poultry. It shouldn't be like that. We are suppressing the growth of other byproducts, equal substitutes. For example, we should be growing sunflower. Sunflower gives us 2 products, our cooking oil and cake to feed our livestock. So we should not depend on maize, all of us, all those segments, human consumption and livestock. If we introduce serious production of sunflower, which is friendly to climate change, then we can have cake which will now augment our nutrients into livestock production. So by producing, for example, white sorghum, we substitute maize. Maize becomes only for human consumption. So the emphasis on maize, it was inherited. We've maintained it, but let's reflect. We are now 40 years old. We can't continue to do what we did at 17 years old. Let's reflect and bring other crops to being. Sunflower must be in. White sorghum must be in to be the mainstay of stock feed production, and we eat food out of maize.
But should maize be the mainstay? Should it be the staple? Given that in terms of our geological location, what we're known as, I will use the word, the regulatory term, small grains are what in fact are traditional grains, which are actually indigenous to Zimbabwe. So why should we emphasize on maize, yet we have our own cereals which are actually best suited for this environment?
We abandoned our own food, very nutritious and very healthy. We abandoned it and followed maize. Maize, we are told, was a source of energy. Labor depended on maize. But we totally abandoned our food of yesterday. Today, if you want to look for seed for sorghum, it's a struggle. If you want to look for seed for sunflower, it's a struggle. It's not available because we went all for maize. And we are saying, no, well, let's reflect. There's no need for that. Regions 3, 4, and 5, climate change, speak to production of small grains or now traditional grains, which we must now step up. To step up that, let's look at our seed bank. Is it full or empty? I would say at this hour, it's empty. It has been empty for the last 10 years.
Join us after the break as we seek to understand how we can grow the seed bank and understanding the GDP narrative, particularly at a time where government is pushing devolution. Join us there. Welcome back. We are focusing on agriculture at 40, and with us is Mr. BASIL NYABADZA. Before we went to the break, you mentioned something that is really, really worrying: an empty seed bank.
Yes.
The nexus of agriculture is having a viable seed bank. Why did it run empty?
We have no less than plus or minus 30 seeds which contribute to our food bank, if you like, as an economy in Zimbabwe. And I would say out of 30, we are self-sufficient, possibly on 9 or 10. 20, we are struggling. And when I say we are struggling, my Chimuti in Boera, she's struggling to get real seed. She gets what we call standard grade seed. In other words, to put it bluntly, recycled commercial material. Because we have not invested in seed, maintenance of seed, production of seed, just as we grow maize. The seeds which are readily available annually, hybrid or certified, is maize, wheat, and soybean. The other seeds, and barley, of course, for beer. But the other seeds we are battling. And we have been battling for the last 9 years. If you remember, we didn't have a program known as the Presidential Input Scheme. It came on board about 9 or 10 years ago because we were in a desperate situation and the government, faced with a challenge, had to introduce a mechanism to say, let's have a program which complements our seed industry. Now, this is why the presidential input scheme was born, to assist, to a mitigating measure. But it has been tended to be now an annual event. And it is dependent on material which is recycled. My chimuti today in Mzalabani is growing mafunde anenge ava kubikita. Aitwa arima kubikita. It's not seed, if I have to be blunt. And this is why we have a perpetual food deficit at household level, at village level. My chimuti needs real seed for groundnuts, for roundnuts, for rapoko. It's not available because no one is growing it. Our seed banks, our players in the seed industry are not concentrating on rapoko, on groundnuts, on sugar beans.
Why is it that there's no investment in seed? We've got seed companies, for starters.
Yes.
We also have organizations such as ADA, which owns plantations, for example.
Yes.
Why are they not investing in seed?
It's not correct to say they are not investing in seed. We have other seeds, actually a division to do seeds. Then you come to the seed houses. The seed houses are mostly private sector players. And they are smart. They've realized that government by far is the biggest business under command agriculture. And the three most seeds they are called to supply is maize, wheat, and soybean. And so they've channeled their resources to those three in the main. They are not growing because command is now taking on board traditional grains. We might see now an offtake of that. But it's very easy to market when there's a big buyer like government buying all these issues. We are saying that investment should be centered with our research and specialist services, Department of Research and Specialist Services. But both the public and private sector players within the seed industry have realized that there's a real opportunity to grow the most sought after crops or seeds within the command agriculture, which is a government program. And so 70% of them are focusing on that, thereby leaving other traditional grains exposed without growers. The smaller grains, we had gone so far down. It's only when they also get into a government program that will motivate players to say, look, what's in it for me? They'll then grow them commercially.
Equally disturbing, Ms. NYABADZA, is also in the fisheries sector, because you do find that seed in that sector is also being attacked by predators. Some call them akorokoza, some call them fishmongers. Lake Kariba is not safe anymore, and that has had an impact. Is it that we really have a lack of leadership when it comes to some of these sectorial authorities, as it were?
If I ask you, who is the producer of fish in Bikita, I don't think you can answer me that. Not just you, but many people. Who is a producer of fish in Mzalabani, in Nyanga? Do we know them? You see, we must keep this data under those segments and say, who is the lead player in this district, not province, in this district? If we address district positions, we are addressing both our provincial and national position. Let's find out in Bikita, that river which flows in Bikita, is someone doing fish? If not, let's graduate one or two players to do fish, and they become leaders. When you do leadership in a district, field days come in to showcase what is happening in a particular district. That's the transformation. We bring our education players in, we bring our tertiary education players in, our agricultural college, to then learn live within a particular district. District development is critical to transform and move towards 2030 vision.
But then are we really following the ethos of devolution? Because from basically what you are saying, looking at the ecological makeup in Zimbabwe and the different segments of agriculture, naturally they form up a template for devolution. Are we following that particular template as natural as it looks?
To some extent. You look now at our provinces. There's a provincial university, there's a provincial hospital. That's devolution very much perhaps under a political framework position. We are saying economically, for example, my brother, Why are we growing maize in Karoi, milling it in Harare, and taking back the milling mill to Kariba? It doesn't make sense. Let's now look at devolution from an economic point of view and say, look, each province must have at least a bakery, a milling facility, an abattoir, and a dairy. If we do that, that's economic devolution. Then we say, you in Mat North, you might not grow much maize, but at least import the maize, but mill it in Mat North. You keep the jobs in Mat North. That's economic devolution. That's what we must aim to do. But that can be done on the back of a sufficient position of supply and demand.
He is on a fervent drive to push what he calls the hunter-Skinner-Cook theory. We'll look at that in the third and final segment. Do you understand? Welcome back. We are focusing on agriculture at 40 in Zimbabwe, and with me is Mr. BASIL NYABADZA. Now, Mr. NYABADZA, over and over the times that I've interacted with you, you are really on a fervent drive of particular theories that you've coined. You've coined the hunter-Skinner-Cook theory. You have the door, window, ceiling theory, among other theories that you've come with. Let's understand those theories and how they work in turning around agriculture.
When I say hunter-Skinner-Cook theory, first and foremost is hunting. The hunter brings value to the table. Before we cook it, the skinner must play his part. Then we cook it for eating. Now, let's identify our hunters. Hunters are rare, they are few. If you place them in their positions, we derive value. Out of every 10, let's have at least, in my view, 6 hunters, 2 skinners, and 2 cooks. I believe that's a winning formula. The moment you have 7 cooks, 1 hunter, and 2 skinners, that ratio, you've got trouble. Cooks come to play and bring their expertise only when hunting has taken place, when indeed the skinner has done his job. So as we place people in respective positions, let's ask the question, is this one a hunter? Is this one a skinner? Is this one a cook? That's what I'm asking. If you place them well, be it at cabinet level, at board level, at class level, hospital level, then I believe we are winning. Why? Because we all bring different talents to the table. We're not saying the table must be found only with the hunters, but let's have the mix balanced. Our leadership positions. Do we have hunters in the headmaster? Is he a hunter? These are the, you see, once you are a headmaster, once you are a president, automatically you are a hunter. If you are a board chairman, you are a hunter. If you are a board chairman and you are a cook in your tendencies, then I'm afraid that board won't go far. We go to the door, window, ceiling theory. I'm saying, all of us want the easy options. If I invite you to my house, I expect you want to come through the door. That door will be found locked. Then what? Just reverse the situation. You are in the house. A fire starts, a raging fire starts, and you have to get out. The door is locked. Are you going to fold your arms and say, look, I can't get out, I'm going to burn here? No. The window is an option. So is the ceiling. I'm simply saying, as you take on your day, have options to execute your program. The objective is clear. To be found seated at 10 o'clock on a particular day. To get in is an option. It's a means. So we are saying, let's not always look at the easier options. That's the door. We don't want people to say, the door is locked. Let's have a door committee, a key committee. Let's have a workshop to find who is the chairman of the committee. That's nonsense. The idea is to say, let's get in. We must be found by such a time. If I get through the door, if I'm found seated, no one will know I've used the ceiling. I'm simply saying, let's have option in some. There's option 1, which is the easiest. We tend to go through option 1. If it's locked, if it's not there, option 2 must be there. So as we start a day, have options. That's all I'm saying.
But looking at the Hunter-Skinner-Cook theory, obviously the roles have to be defined, and they have to be quite clear.
Yes.
As we translate it to agriculture, are roles defined?
They have to be defined. If you are a leader, let's say in plantations, that's the definition. You are not in horticulture. You are in plantations. That's the territory. What are the main issues in plantations? What are the main issues in livestock? What are the main issues in horticulture? So those are the defining positions. Don't try and do everything. You are going to mix up issues. You won't be an expert in everything else. Yes, you can do better in plantations and do perhaps slightly well in your horticulture. But know and say, look, my theme here, my region where I am. For example, you don't grow tea in Matabeleland. It's not a rule, it's not an act of parliament, but the conditions, they tell you that it doesn't do well. So don't do that. So they are well defined. But we are saying, if tea production is done in Mutasa district or Chimanimani district, those who do it, they must now follow a system which is understood universally, which brings the best yields. And don't try and then rear cattle in Chimanimani. It might not do well. So that's the definition we are talking about.
You spoke of business intelligence in the previous program, and I want to relate some of your theories to business intelligence. You speak of the hunter, the Skinner and the Cook. How do we perfect these distinctive features, particularly understanding business intelligence?
Yes. That's a very fundamental position, Tawanda. In this country, there is political intelligence. There is equally security intelligence, well above average. I'll question whether our business intelligence is anywhere near those two. To complement our political thrust, our Vision 2030, we need to step up business intelligence. What do I mean by business intelligence? Business intelligence to analyze what is happening yesterday. You see, the research I'm talking about is not always laboratory. It's about yesterday, today, and tomorrow. How did we do it yesterday? What are we doing today? How could we improve for tomorrow? What I mean, for example, if I look at business intelligence, maize is a fine subject. Who grows maize in the main, who finances production of maize? The Zimbabwe government. And who are the main beneficiaries? Stock exchange listed companies. Who fold their arms when it comes to production? A key segment of that five. They fold their arms and say, we want raw materials. You import it or you grow it. These are stock exchange listed entities. To me, our business intelligence is not in sync with reality. You cannot finance anywhere in the world raw materials from a government public sector position to feed into private sector. It doesn't work like that. So this is where business intelligence will unravel those anomalies and perfect them. If we did it yesterday, certainly not tomorrow.
Mr. NYABADZA, it has been a fantastic run with you, particularly on the Hunter-Skinner-Cook theory. Allow me to then add that you need to put cooker to the cook, or before the cook, or just simply the issue of the tools of the trade in order to have your theory coming through. But thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, Tawanda. Thank you. We can't shake hands.
We can't shake hands, unfortunately.
No,
we're observing social distancing. But it's so good. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been Economic Forum, a whole 2 episodes focusing on agriculture at 40. And we've done that with Mr. NYABADZA, the current chair of the Traditional Grains Producers Association. He's former chair of ADA as well as AMA. On behalf of the crew behind the scenes, it is a pleasant viewing. My name is Tawanda Gudlanga.